Hello, I'm Bailey Leisure, and this is my 2017 NFL Playoff Wildcard recap and my predictions for the divisional round upcoming this weekend. So I'm going to kick off this video recapping the Chiefs Titans game. Just another one of those mismanaged, or excuse me, poorly coached, time managed games by Andy Reid. They were up 18 points, and they just faltered. They didn't score. They didn't score a single point in the second half, and the Titans were able to come back. Marcus Mariota. I thought the Titans were a very weak opponent, or a very weak playoff team, and Marcus Mariota catching a touchdown pass and leading his team down the field against the Chiefs, and the Titans were able to get a victory. So, and we probably saw most likely with what the direction the Chiefs are going to be going in with Patrick Mahomes in the future. That's most likely going to be the last game we saw Alex Smith in a Chiefs uniform, and he's gonna be a free agent. Several teams looking for quarterbacks, including the Arizona Cardinals, who I could see him going to. So a lot of question marks there, and we could have just seen the end of Alex Smith as a Chiefs quarterback. So moving on to Falcons Rams. You know what? I thought the Falcons were probably the one team I thought, the Panthers to some extent, where I thought they were the one wild card team to most likely to win. And the reason I picked the Rams because, just overall I liked Todd Gurley, but he wasn't really a huge factor in that game. And you got to give credit to the Falcons. They showed the Rams were a young team, and that it showed. A team that hadn't been to playoffs and a lot of young guys. I expect them to get back within the next year or two, and definitely I think they'll have a little bit better results. But I think considering Matt Ryan, veteran quarterback, and they were just in the Super Bowl last year. I get why they won that game. So moving on to Jaguars Bills game, the this was a pretty much of a bore fest. And to be honest, the way Blake Bortles played this game, a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's a terrible quarterback." And I think overall he ran the ball better than he passing, you know. And overall it was kind of a bore fest, and there were a lot of reports saying there were more Bills fans at the Jacksonville game. This was the Bills' first playoff game in the millennium, the new millennium, and you know it's just it was kind of a weak game. Jacksonville was able to win that game. I believe the score was 10-3, and they're gonna but overall that Jacksonville defense was enough, and we'll see what happens this upcoming week. And then final game, Saints Panthers game. This was a really good. This was actually a pretty good game. Cam Newton got hurt late in this game. The running game wasn't really the story in this game, which it has been the story for the New Orleans offense all season long. That great tandem of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, they weren't much of a factor. But it's great to have a quarterback like Drew Brees, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he was the big story in this game. I think he threw over 300 yards, threw a couple touchdowns, and the Saints were able to win a close game. It just came down to your veteran, most experienced quarterback was the biggest factor in this game, and sure enough, it was for the Saints as they were able to squeak through this victory. So, and I think Drew Brees I think he has a record of 5-0, maybe 6-0 at home in his Saints career. So you got to give it that, and they were able to win that game. It was a pretty good game, and I gotta say overall, this was a better start to the playoffs than last year was. Because last year, for the most part, I think we saw literally one good game prior to the Super Bowl, and that was Packers Cowboys. Everything was either a blowout or low scoring affair, just not really good played football. And I think overall this weekend, the two really good games were, the Chiefs and the Titans, and the Saints and the Panthers. I think, the Bills game was close. Bills Jaguars was pretty close, but kind of a bore fest. Rams Falcons game was somewhat close, but it wasn't like this, where it came down in the last couple minutes. So, but overall, a good start to the NFL playoffs this year, and hopefully, like last year, this playoff can make up for kind of the boring season we saw. So we'll see what happens in the divisional round. Before I get into the divisional round, there was a big piece of news that came out of the NFL today recently. So Le'Veon Bell, it's been well documented over the last year or so that he's trying to get a big contract from Pittsburgh, and he didn't report until a few weeks before the season started. And there was a report coming out today that Le'Veon Bell from the Pittsburgh Steelers, he is willing to either sit out the season or retire if he's franchise tagged again. He wants to get paid, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of question marks with Pittsburgh because I really think this could be the last year that they're a Super Bowl contender because we don't know we don't know. At this point, Ben Roethlisberger is on like a Brett Favre like path because there's last couple seasons there's been questions if he's going to come back the next year or not. He hasn't come out of retirement yet, but we'll see what happens there. But I mean, the only out of the big three players there, the only guy that's signed to a large contract is Antonio Brown. So you got Ben Roethlisberger on retirement watch, Le'Veon Bell. I think there's a big possibility. I mean, this is just speculation, but that the seeds are being planted for a divorce between Le'Veon Bell and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. So there's a lot of question marks there. I mean, I think they could be. This is not a good sign for Pittsburgh, and we'll see what happens at the end of the playoffs and see where it goes. So moving on to my predictions. After the playoff record, I went 2-2 in postseason predictions. So my overall record is 152 picks right and 83 wrong. And I'm going to kick off the first game, Falcons-Eagles. This is, on paper, about 2 months ago, I'd say this is one of the best playoff matchups before Carson Wentz got hurt. Now a lot of questions with Le'Veon Bell. I think Matt Ryan having that experience, and I think the Eagles. I think from a running game standpoint, I think they have, overall as a team, I'd say the Eagles. But I think the biggest factor in this is the quarterback play, and from experience and just from quarterback play, I think the favorite in that game is the Falcons. I'm going to take them on the road against Atlanta. In Philadelphia against the Eagles. So, it's just a shame what happened to Carson Wentz, because I was like, they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl, in the NFC. And then he gets hurt, like a bunch of other big name players this year. And, it's just a shame for the Eagles, had done an MVP season Carson Wentz had, and then getting hurt, and then not only, was a big blow to his MVP hopes, but a big blow to the Eagles getting to the Super Bowl. So, but I'm going to take the Falcons over the Eagles. So, Titans-Patriots, weak AFC. There's been so much drama in the media recently with, the transitional game between Tom Brady and the Patriots organization, the Jimmy Garoppolo trade and aftermath from that. Still, come on, it's the Patriots. I know the Titans are not playing the Chiefs with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are game management wizards. So, and they're at home. I'm going to take the Patriots. I mean, it's just, I know defensively the Patriots are not the same without Dante Hightower, and they've took a major regression from previous seasons, but I like the pass at home. And come on, it's Tom Brady, and he plays his best in the postseason. So I'm going to take experience in this. So the Sunday matchups are a lot more interesting than the Saturday matchups. Jaguars Steelers. This is an interesting game because I think Jacksonville's defense is good enough to make a Super Bowl run, but at the same time, Blake Bortles, his quarterback play, I just don't see it improving. Now, you do realize that this team blew out the Steelers at home, or beat them by 17 points, which I kind of consider a blowout. Not huge, but, whatever. But I think Jacksonville, out of the between them and Tennessee, I see Jacksonville upsetting the Steelers more than I see the Titans upsetting the Patriots. Um, However, though, the Steelers, they've been a lot different since then, and I think that they've been one of the hottest teams in the NFL since that loss. They've only lost once, and that was controversially to the Patriots in a game they probably should have won. But I just think that Jacksonville, I think Pittsburgh's just a better team. I think this will be a close game. A lot of people think the Steelers are going to destroy the Jaguars. I mean, you have Ben Roethlisberger, who's made 3 Super Bowl runs. I think this is going to be a close game, somewhere between 3 and 7 points. I think it's going to be a one-score game, but I think after the performance Blake Bortles had last week, I can't pick the Jaguars. As good as their defense is, I can't pick them. I'm going to take the Steelers at home. And then Saints Vikings. So this is an interesting narrative and path the Vikings have. Now, Minnesota, the number 2 seed. Case Keenum's been great as out of nowhere he's had this really great year. Had kind of a Kurt Warner story. Backup quarterback for so long, is a journeyman quarterback, and he finds this, he's had a great year as a backup quarterback, and I just, and the interesting thing is that the Vikings, this is the first time these two teams have faced off since the infamous 2009 NFC Championship game, in which the Saints, I was in the era of the whole Bounty Gate thing, same year they won the Super Bowl, but it's interesting that the Vikings, if the Falcons win, and the Falcons-Eagles game is on Saturday, while the Saints-Vikings game is on Sunday, if the Falcons win, that means that it will be official that the Vikings will have playoff advantage throughout the Super Bowl, as the Super Bowl is in Minnesota this year. And it's interesting to think about, but if the Falcons win, I saw it on Twitter, it was kind of trending, Vikings Revenge Tour, which is true. The Vikings, if could potentially, in the NFC at least, they could avenge the 2000, some of their most heartbreaking losses in their history. They could avenge the 2009 NFC Championship game loss. If they face the Falcons, they could avenge the 1998 NFC Championship loss. And if Pittsburgh makes the Super Bowl, they could avenge their Super Bowl 9 loss against the Steelers in the 70s. So it's very interesting. Even though the Vikings, I think they have a better defense, once again, like the Falcons-Eagles matchup, I just like quarterback experience a little bit more. So even though I think this is going to be a field goal game, I think this is going to be really back and forth, and it's kind of going to come down to the last couple minutes. I'm going to take the Saints by a hair, just because I like Drew Brees more, and he's the only Super Bowl winning quarterback in this game in the NFC part of the playoffs. So I just have to go with him, but it's really a coin flip. I really wanted to pick the Vikings, but because of the quarterback play, I had to pick the Saints. But it's gonna. I think most of these games will be pretty close. Well, actually, no. Hopefully they're all close, but I think I can see them all being close games, but we'll see. That's it for my video this week. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to do this next week again for the conference championship games. Follow me on Twitter at BaileyLeisure96. If you like the video, click like. If you like the content on my channel, please subscribe. And comment on who you think is going to win the divisional games this week. Do you think the Vikings will win? Do you think Jacksonville... What team do you think has the biggest chance of upsetting my picks? So leave the comments in the comment section below. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will see you next week.